Hello everybody and welcome to our today's webinar with the Migration Center team. Today's topic is moving your OpenText Documentum content from Centera to another file store. Before we start with our presentation, let's do one quick slide of housekeeping. Please note that all attendees are muted during the whole session. Should you have any questions, remarks, or any other inquiries, you can also always enter them into either the chat or the questions box on your right-hand side per default. And I will collect those questions and we will answer them in a dedicated Q&A session after the main part of the webinar. Please also note that this webinar is being recorded and we will share it with you a couple of days after the presentation. With this, I would like to hand over to our main speaker, Mike.
Yes, thank you, Mark. And hello, everyone. Welcome to the webinar about how to move the content from one file store or storage type to another. So in this webinar, you will see, I will show you some slides about the Migration Center, but very few of them only. It's not the standard presentation. It's really tailored to the content replacement part. So we see, some information about the Migration Center, some important capabilities which we need for the replacement of the storage or content. And I will show you everything in the live demo as well. Okay, let's jump into the presentation. So first of all, challenges of content migration. This slide is often showed here because the Migration Center addresses many use cases, right? So from migration to replacement, let's say. Replacement is here not the content replacement, here we mean platform replacement, right? So that's why I highlighted the others use cases, use case, which is reclassifying or classifying content objects or reclassifying content objects, and also doing that changing the content store. So replace, as an example, a Centera with another file store, whatever, right? So this use case is really the in-place upgrade or update use case where you connect to an existing platform like Documentum. You scan all the metadata, but most likely not the content. And then you will just change the metadata, if you like, the object types, the folder structure, and so on. And then you just re-import, or with other words, update the scan system with the newly transformed metadata, right? And so this we had this in-place adapter for a long time already for Documentum. But now we also added the feature that you can change the storage type, the content store, and also for in Centera. And this was a special upgrade because normally from Centera you cannot move any files. It's quite hard to handle, right? Yeah, first of all, migration administration method of Documentum. So Documentum delivers board tools where you have also some administration methods, and you can use the migrate content method already to move only the content from objects from one store to another, right? So this is also usable and feasible. You can really address some smaller use cases with it. You can, for example, move content from file store 01 to file store 02 or whatever, but it is really not very convenient. So it is bad, or it's difficult to control, and you don't have a real overview because everything happens in the background, right? It's a server method which is running in the background. You configure it, not very convenient, and then it runs in the background, and you won't get any feedback, until or only the log file at the end. So, and you have some limitations, like you cannot move checked out content. It will not move renditions by default, and also some other smaller limitations here and there. So the beauty is we use that server method here, or let's say background method, and we built it into our in-place adapter, really to enrich the functionality. To move the content also from a Centera. So we use that method, but we extended it with some features, so we can use it easily in Migration Center within an in-place upgrade migration, just to use the in-place upgrade mechanism also to change the content. So why Migration Center? Yes, we use that method. And we build it in Migration Center, that's what I said. So Migration Center is 100% out of the box content migration platform or tool. So it's a product, you buy it, you install it, and you can use it, right? So you purchase the additional passes, for example, Documentum to Documentum, the in-place upgrade pass, and then you can just use the Migration Center with its a client. So you don't need to do any additional programming, configuration, or scripting. You just use the client to do the whole migration from, let's say, from source to target. We have been over 13 years on the market. We have over 150 migration paths, which you'll see in a second on another slide. And additionally, we have special features like you have no downtime in the whole migration, so you can really do the migration or the in-place upgrade or the content change in the background while the system is still up and running, and no user would even see or recognize that there's a migration going on in the background. We have a transformation rules engine which is being used to create transformation rules to do the attribute manipulation, the attribute mapping, so to restructure everything and to reapply any other metadata values and such. So this is really built in a robust platform. So you just use a client and configure something with some clicks, and you can see what your transformation will do and how it would look like, and then you can just click a button to import everything. We have a global service presence, so many partners all over the world supporting Migration Center on site if you need it, and as well we have a flexible and simple pricing model. Solution overview, or a technical architecture about the Migration Center. Here in the picture you see the Migration Center, which is built up from 3 components. There's one Windows client, which I already talked about. So this is really the control center for all processes or configuration, and also for the overview, and later on also for the audit view to see what happened when. Then we have a central component, which is the database. So this is our brain in the system. So the database stores everything from configuration to scanner selection criteria and configuration and such, and also the transformation rules, as well as the metadata from the source objects or from the transformed objects. So with other words, everything is stored in our database, but the content, if we are dealing with content extraction, which is not the case here in this webinar. So last but not least, we have a job server, which is in the picture, it's the gray, the gray frame, left and right with the target and source connectors. The job server is then actually the processing unit, which can be installed as many times as you need it. So this is also the scalable unit. And as I said, it includes the adapters. So they are running in Java, and we call them connectors, and has a target and source connectors. So we have, you can see we have many of them. On the left-hand side, we have what we call scanners. So here we have for every OpenText system, actually, Content Server, Documentum, D2, DCM, XCP, but also other ones like eRoom and also OpenText eDocs. And also for Microsoft, we support Outlook and SharePoint, SharePoint 365, or on-premise, off-premise, IBM FileNet, Notes, Alfresco, and some others as well. For the target connectors, we support the big vendors as well, like OpenText, the whole stack, Microsoft, SharePoint, Alfresco, Box, FileShare, Viva Vault, and Frestock. Also, you see here the custom systems, and this is actually what also an adapter, which what we mean with that is that you can build your own adapter, or we can build a new adapter for a new system, and build a distinct adapter connector, also scanner or importer, for a system which we do not have an adapter for yet. So we call it open connectivity architecture. With other words, when we don't have an adapter and the file system adapter or the database adapter will not work to extract the content from the source system, as an example, we can also build a new adapter to connect to a new system. We are always keen on building new adapters, of course, because that's also the way the Migration Center grew over the years. Okay, to speak about some capabilities, and especially the capabilities for this in-place update migration. A Migration Center in general is built for large data volumes. So you really use the Migration Center, scale it up with the job servers, and then you normally reach the maximum performance of the corresponding platforms. So typically the target system, or let's say the import, is the slowest part here. And normally if you scale the migration center up as you need it, like the maximum, you will end up and having the target system import as the bottleneck of the whole procedure. So we're really always, for every adapter, we are keen on fast load and import of the objects from both sides, source system and target system. And here you see also a typical setup of the migration center. As an example, we have this, as I said, the brain, the central migration center database down there at the bottom. And then we have one or several clients at the top. And on the left-hand side, you see, as an example, 3 job servers for scanning. And on the right-hand side, you would see like 3 job servers for importing. And that's also how it works. Like we extract content or metadata, in this case only metadata, from the source system into the migration center database in the middle, and from there you do transformation and configuration with the client, and then you take the transformed metadata and maybe content, take it from the migration center ecosystem, and then use the job server to import those into the target system. You can also use only 1 job server for both tasks, and or 3 job server for both tasks. So that's absolutely up to you. It's very flexible. And also on 1 job server, you can run many different tasks in parallel. So at the end of the day, a typical setup would actually be 2 job servers for both tasks. It depends on the count of documents and of the size of the content and so on and so on. Yeah, speaking of the brain of the central database, this is, I already touched on it. So the system really works with extract the content and metadata into the migration center, and typically we would put content on a file share and all the metadata on the database, then transform everything and then go into the new system. So in our today's use case, we do not extract the content because we don't want, we don't want to change the content, and we don't want to import the content in a different platform or in a different content server, right, in a physical machine. So what we're going to do today is really scan the source system like a Documentum, then change some metadata, especially the metadata which is dealing with the content, with the storage. And then we just transform like the metadata and then tell the importer again to update the existing source system. Yeah, doing that, and especially with having in mind that you could use the migrate content method, the administration method from Documentum to, for example, tell the Documentum content server to really replace or change the storage type for all documents within the repository. So that could be really many, or millions, or billions, right? And normally that is really an impacting task. So the performance of the corresponding system will definitely be different, let's say, not as good as if you would not do a big job like that in the background. So when you do that with Migration Center to replace just the Centera as a content store, you can still use all the beautiness of Migration Center. So what we call set-by-set processing to either scan 1 million source documents into the Migration Center and then split them up into so-called migration sets or mix sets, which can be done by any criteria and any attribute actually which is existing in this scan run, for example, by object types, by users, by creation date, by modified date, and even by a combination of those, right? You can say, okay, every DM document in a specific folder path should go into that mix set. And one mix set is then one place or one scope of documents where you put transformation rules on. And not only that, also a mix set is then like a package for the importer, which can be imported. So you can really do it set by set. So it would mean scope or a bunch of documents after a bunch of documents, and then do the whole content storage transfer or like changement in sets or in steps, right? So you can really control the whole process. First do those objects, or and then these objects and so on. And you can use really any criteria, any attribute which is available in the scanner or in the source system. So in that way, you can really fasten the whole content store replacement, but also you can really define like waves which for documents, for example, which are in that case, or at that point of time, easier and more safer to move, for example. But safe, it's safe anyway, but you know what I mean. You can manage the whole process and do it step by step by logic, let's say, with a plan. Yeah, and besides the set by set, we have the so-called step-by-step migration. And I just have that slide because also for, as I just said, like for the content replacement or the storage replacement, actually, we have the same phases. Like we still have analyze, organize, transform, validate, correct, and import, which is basically we extract the metadata, not the content, but the metadata into the migration center, then build in an organized phase, build migration sets, put the transformation on. For a simple and only content or storage replacement function, there's actually only one transformation function which changes a storage type attribute in the Documentum case. So that would be enough. But the beauty here is you can also, besides this only content or storage replacement, you can also do metadata and information updates if you like and if you need it. Even afterwards, you can still do it while you're having those objects in Migration Center. So that's why we have transform still in, but it's only one rule basically. So then you validate, as usual, the metadata, the newly transformed metadata. And if something is not correct or in the form you would like to have it, you just go to the correct phase, correct all the values and change transformation rules. And then once the data is validated, you go to the import, which is then, yeah, the creating the objects or changing the objects in the target system accordingly to the rules. So these processes or this process chain still exists and still helps you in controlling and performing the whole migration for a lot of data. For example, you won't never lose control. Migration Center keeps track on the individual document status actually in the Migration Center with a great overview. And also after the import, you still you still have the overview or let's say the status tracked in Migration Center. So you would also see every kind of error which was or which appeared in the import phase. So if there's anything wrong with the new file store or content store in general, you would just end up like in the correct phase, then change something or check on the error in the target system and just click a button again to re-import the files which haven't been correctly imported at the time. Okay, let's go into the live demo where I show you a simple example of how to do that with the Migration Center to replace a Centera-like storage with a file store. So let me share the other screen here. Okay, so this is now our demo machine here. Everything is installed basically on one machine, but Documentum is on another. So we have the Migration Center database, a job server here, and the Migration Center client. So first of all, I want to show you what I'm going to do. So here we have a Documentum where some administrator jobs failed, but that's not of our interest. Okay, so here we have my cabinet. It's a webinar Centera simulation. Yeah, unfortunately, our Centera, or as usual, the Centera is not up and running at the moment, but that's not a problem. So I will show you the example on a read-only file store where I just move or change a storage type from that file store to another, right? So in here, we just have about 800 documents with a folder structure, which is not too much of our interest because at the end of the day, I will simply change one value, which is actually the storage type, which is a file store 01 here, right? So for that, I will go to storage first and check the file store 01. So I will put it on read only, which is my simulation for having a Centera here. I know it is not the like 100% simulation of Centera because you can also have retention rules and stuff like that on Centera. But yeah, we proved that this adapter works already in customer projects where we really scan from a Centera and move them on a file share or on another SAN storage or whatever was connected to Documentum. So in our case here, I want to change the file store 01, and I will just use the replica file store 01 here as an example. All right, so let's go ahead and I start the Migration Center client. Once connected to a database, you will see it here. It's our webinars database. And then it's basically here the hot toolbar from scanners, migration sets to importers. Like you have also an overview for jobs and the job servers. The first thing you would ever do is like add a job server to the system. So here you see we added 3 job servers. It's simply by IP address or by server name and the port. And I guess, yeah, I will use that one, which is installed on the local host here with that port. It's available, so we can use it. And we can go forward and create a scanner. So I open the scanners page and I show you how to create a new scanner. So in the Migration Center, everything or every like scanner or different scanner for all the different platforms looks the same. So you basically click on new here, and then you choose the corresponding platform, right? This is the source platform. And once you choose a source platform, you will see different parameters populated down here, and they are corresponding to the platform, of course. And most of them are really like features, related features of the corresponding system, like Documentum as an example. We have annotations, maybe comments, relations, virtual documents, versions, renditions, and so on and so on. So for our case, we keep it quite simple because we just want to scan a Documentum and we just want to change the metadata basically, or respectively the content store for the objects. So I open my pre-configured scanner here, which is Documentum. So I enter some credentials like administrator and password and the source repository. And then, and that's the most interesting part maybe here, I have a DQL string as a selection criteria for the documents I want to change the content store in, right? So that's also the information here in Migration Center. You don't have to scan 1 million, 2 billion, whatever millions of documents. You can do that and then maybe later filter them into different mix sets. But you can also already define the scope of documents within the scanner properties. And with other words, creating a DQL query, which is selecting our object IDs from any type, any document type you might have there. And here I choose a where condition where I choose, okay, take the document, all the documents from the folder webinar Centera simulation, right? So this gives you a good idea about how it works in Migration Center. So I can see it already. I have many scanners created already. So you can copy or create a new Documentum scanner and then maybe choose another cabinet, which is that scanner then scanning, right? So you can really organize the whole migration, for example, 1 million documents, and build scanners where each scanner will scan 100,000 documents, for example, and then you will end up in 10 scanners. So as I said, these scanners or scan processes, then when I click on run, can run in parallel, so they can run side by side. And also within one scanner job, there are threads used to do the scan as fast as you need it, let's say. So in that scanner, I only put the DQL string in, and then, and that's also important, I choose to skip the content, right? This is one parameter which is, quite useful here. I could also extract the content, but as I know that I will not use that content specifically, I will only change the contents file store in the background. So I won't need the content at all. So this is the beauty, because I don't need to extract the content. So we save disk space on the temporary location file share, which is here just C, but it will not extract any content. So I skip the content and only scan all the metadata of the documents. Of course, this will also fasten or make it faster, the whole scan. So once the scanner is configured, I just click on run, give it a description, and then let the scanner run. While it's running, I see in the history panel, I can see the status. So this scanner with Documentum scanner, skipping the content is really, really fast. This is what you see is not the fastest speed it can have. This is our demo system, and the Documentum especially is used by many people here for demo and development purposes. So whatever, this is not the fastest. normally this is very fast. It's one of our fastest scanning processes in general. But you see, it was not slow either. So it took 20 seconds to scan 800 objects. Okay, once the object has been scanned, you can click on View Scanned Objects. And then you will see all our typical grid in Migration Center, where you see any kind of metadata which have been collected by the scanner. Right, so we can just click through here. So you see the ID and source system and every kind of attribute, but content type especially. But for our case here, actually, we only need, or we want only to change one, and this is then the A storage type, which is file store 01 here, right? I mean, assuming this is a Centera storage 01 or Centera storage or whatever storage, actually you can, most likely replace or move the content in the background from any storage to any storage. Okay, so let's say we are fine with that. We have 7 or about 800 objects scanned. So I can close the scanner page and I go to the migration sets page. Here again, very quickly to show you how to create a new one. You click on new. This is very similar. Like here, you don't choose a corresponding platform, but you choose a path, right? So where you come from, where you go to. So in our case, this would be Documentum into the same Documentum, so an in-place. But you can also go from any other adapter or corresponding system we have into any other system, right? So you choose that path, just that the migration center basically knows the basic configuration and what are the mandatory attributes and so on, and the logic from one system to another to import the documents. Let me quickly open the one I already prepared. Actually, I only give it a name or gave it a name. So DCTM updater. I choose Documentum in place document upgrade. And now I can go ahead and go to the file scan selection where I choose our scan, which is a Documentum in place scanner run number 1. So I now add to that mix set. So that's what I mean with set by set. So I now put all the documents from that scan into that mix set. So the next step could be what I said. So assuming we have scanned 1 million documents, maybe we want to exclude some of those objects and put them later on into another mix set, or we don't want to change the content store at all. So for that case, you could go here to exclude objects by values, and then you would see a distinct list of all these scanned attributes on the left side. And when you click on one, you would see a distinct list of all the attribute values in that attributes, right? So as an example, we could, owner name is only 1. We could, for example, exclude versions from that mix set by the version attribute. Or let's take a better one. Yeah, you can even exclude by DCTM object link. So for example, here, I would exclude especially that folder. So all the documents which have that folder in common or which are located in that folder will be excluded in that mixset and then can be selected into another mixset later on. Additionally to this really useful feature here, you can also create and set up advanced filters. There you can really use any kind of system of scanned source attribute and then combine it with any kind of operator and a value, and even connect this with an and or condition. So here you can really create a real like where condition to, for example, make more complex exclusions, like take all documents, for example, which haven't been touched the last 10 years, right? So you might want to change the content for these objects which haven't been modified for 10 years. So most likely will anyway not be modified in the next months. So you might proceed with those objects first. So, and then you go with the next objects and so on and so on. So that's really a key feature here to control and plan and organize the whole migration by importance or by any type of attribute on that attributes. Okay, imagine we keep it with 789 objects. So I just select all the objects in here. And now I have 700 something unprocessed objects. So our key here, also in an in-place upgrade or in a storage replacement. Basically, I have to go from unprocessed to imported, and so we just go into transformation rules. Yeah, it's quite empty here because we don't need to change much at all. So here we only have a object link, which is the previous, the original folder. So I don't want to change that. And we have the object type, which is also a DM document. So I also don't want to change that. So everything is possible. You can change any, could change any kind of attribute if you like to do that now or later. But in this case, we only want to change the storage and let the importer basically replace or move the content in the background. Okay, for that, I will just create a storage type attribute here, and I will put a get value function, which will just be a user value, like the storage asset replica file store 01, right? Is that correct? Let me check. Replica file store 01, right? So this could be any kind of store you have connected to the Documentum. Okay, so yeah, with other words, I want to change the content store. I do it with that rule, and then in the associations tab, I have DM document, and I just say auto associate. So I will change the storage type target attribute basically. So that's basically it. So I just click on OK to save it, and I click on apply transformation and also the validation to have validated documents. So as you see, the validation doesn't make too much sense now, because I mean I entered a value which is correct for the validation, but the validation will not check if that content store is really connected in Documentum, right? At this point, it will only tell me, okay, the value in there seems to be correct, but whether the content store is offline or available, that will be done. The check will be done by the importer. But nevertheless, if you have other attributes or you have a new metadata model, you have a new object type, which you also want to change during that in-place upgrade process, this validation comes really, again, in very handy. So you would see already here if you have any, let's say mistakes in the transformation, if you have any values, new values, which will not fit into the target system. So that means you can do the validation for the metadata or of the metadata object type definition already before you really touch the target system at all. Right, so yeah, at any case, at any time when you have objects here in a mixed, you can always see source objects, so the original values, the processed objects and the error objects. So here, let us just check in the process objects, we have a status validated, and then we should just see the storage type, the Documentum link, and the object type, because other than that, we will not change anything in the Documentum, right? Okay, once we are satisfied with the mixed and the transformation, we just go ahead and create an importer. And this looks very similar to the scanner. Same thing, I can click on new and create an importer for all the installed adapters or connectors. Once I choose one, I get a different populated list of attributes. So for our case, we will just use the pre-configured one, where you see I have the adapter type Documentum in place. I gave it a name. I choose the job server, which should do this job. And then we go into details of the parameters. Right, and so we added for our existing Documentum scanner, we actually added, besides the credentials, we added the move content only check. So this check is really especially built in for this only content replacement method, right? So when the Documentum importer sees a storage type is different or was changed actually in the transformation rules, and you tick that checkbox here, the importer will do some things like proceed with the logic to replace a content store, so move or copy. In case of Centera, you cannot move the content because it is like a read-only storage, right? You cannot delete anything in Centera. So then it will just copy the document from Centera to the new file share in the background with the Documentum method. But in case it's a file share, for example, file store, like a file system, and it is not read-only, you may also just move the content from there to the new file share or file store. Additionally, in our content move, you may say that you also want to move renditions. So if one object is moved from a Centera, the content object, you can also say move all the rendition content objects from that Centera. I mean, if you want to replace Centera, that's very important because you need every single bit of information which is related to that file, right? And also, that's very interesting, we can move checkout content. So that means it will check. I mean, it can check that a document is checked out, but with that parameter, you just say ignore the checked out status completely, because actually for a content move, it is not very important if the object was checked out, because the user will not even see or recognize that the migration was happening in the background, right? I will show you that in an example as well. And then here you say remove the original content or not, what I just said. So in this case, I have a read-only file store. In a Centera case, you also have a read-only content store. So we will not remove the content, but rather copy the content. Additionally, we have one extra log file for the content server method, but this is typically empty when there are no errors in general. Yeah, last but not least, you can set up the number of threads. So this is very fast in the background, actually. And a content replacement will not take as long as a scan or as a usual import, right? It's really fast. So let's go ahead and assign a mix set like that. So, and let me maybe also check out one file just for a demo purposes here. So I check out this one. And actually, it doesn't matter if the file was checked out after the scan or before the scan. So actually, scanned out documents are no issue at all. So you can imagine at our customer, we had millions of documents and of course, many users. And the process of telling every user to check in the document before we change the content store in the background, it's very time consuming, right? So we worked on that, and now it really doesn't matter. It will just scan every file, no matter if it's checked out or not, change the content store in the background and the existing content. And if the user will check in the document from their or his or her PC, it will just be updated on the new content store, right? Content storage type. So this is really no issue at all. So let's see. Let me start the import, or basically the in-place updater. So click on run, and now you see it's faster than the scanner. I click on refresh here, and it's already finished. So it took like 10 seconds to move all the objects with no error. I mean, move is not the right word. Actually, it copied the content from one file store to another. So let's go back in here. And you see that it's checked out already still, but no error was thrown there. Let's go to the properties and see. We have now the replica file store 01 here. As I said, in Centera storage case or in other file stores, it will move the content to the corresponding and set up file store in there. All right, that's basically the demo. Yeah, that's it. So yeah, if you have any question regarding the demo, just write them into the question panel or write us a mail afterwards. So that will be no issue at all, right? Okay, let me switch back to the presentation, show you some more slides, just some like hints or information from our side. We're talking about the reclassification in place upgrade mechanism, right, in process. So we scan a Documentum or another system, and then we just change object types or metadata and values and this and that. And then we re-import or re-upgrade, let's say, update the metadata in place. So yeah, that's why I included that slide in here, the artificial intelligence capability slide. So it will not tell you too much, but I just want to show you that we also have an artificial intelligence module, which can be used to enhance the metadata quality, let's say the quality of information, and also enrich the metadata and the information in a corresponding system with the help of AI. So you can train the AI somehow, and then you scan the Documentum as an example. And if you have very many empty attributes or wrong attributes and this and that, the AI can really help you to choose a new attribute or choose new attribute values, or even to define the type of object if that's unclear, and so on and so on, you know. So the AI module is really there to help you regarding the attribute and the attribute quality. You can really utilize the AI module to get the best out of your system, right, in terms of information quality and attribute quality. And this can also be used within the in-place upgrade path. Yeah, last but not least, from my side, we have also migration services, the FME AG. You can use the Migration Center, as I said, out of the box, purchase the product and use the product, but you can, of course, also contact us to let us do the work with the Migration Center on site and just do the whole replacement of the content store. Not only in terms of the doing the real migration, but maybe we can also help you in the planning, organizing, writing, or do a proof of concept, and so on with our services team. Okay, with that last slide, I hand over to Mark again. Thank you very much for watching from my side already. Maybe we hear some questions of you later.
Thank you very much for this great presentation, Mike. And before we move on to our before-mentioned Q&A section, let me just note that we have a dedicated website for our product Mike just talked about. It's migration-center.com. And on there, you can find all the information in detail, like product features, success stories, references, our service portfolio Mike just mentioned, and of course our past webinars as webinar recordings. And there's also a Migration Center knowledge port in form of a blog you can find on there. And most importantly, we offer a so-called free evaluation copy. That's a trial version of Migration Center. It's totally free for a 14-day time frame. You can choose your own migration path, like your source system, your target system, and will then get a license to test it thoroughly to see if it fits your use case. And in just, I think it's 1.5 weeks, on September 8th, we are attending the Viva Summit, as you can see here. So if you are planning on attending the summit as well, come by our booth, and we are looking forward to talk to you. Thank you for attending. I hope we see you again soon in one of our upcoming webinars within the next couple of months. So stay tuned. And until then, I can only say it's Migration Center you love to work with. Thank you for attending again, and have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.